One of my consulting clients came to me frustrated. A client I'll call Robert, age 62, to protect his privacy. He'd been eating almonds daily for 18 months, 2 ounces every afternoon. Heart-healthy nuts, he told me. Protein, good fats, vitamin E. Everything I read says almonds are good for you. His PSA after 18 months, 9.2, up from 8.1, 1.1 higher, despite 18 months of what he thought was healthy eating. I asked him to describe exactly what he was eating. Roasted, salted almonds. 2 handfuls at 3 p.m. every day. Never miss. I immediately saw 3 problems. Problem 1, almonds are extremely high in oxalates. 2 ounces contain 244 milligrams. The recommended limit for people prone to inflammation is 50 to 100 milligrams daily. Robert was eating 2 to 5 times that amount just from almonds, plus oxalates from other foods throughout the day. Oxalate crystals form in tissues, cause inflammation, elevate PSA. Problem 2, roasted almonds have oxidized fats. High heat roasting damages the polyunsaturated fats, creates inflammatory compounds called lipid peroxides. Raw almonds don't have this problem, but 90% of almonds sold are roasted. Robert's were roasted at high temperature. Problem 3, salt. His almonds were heavily salted. High sodium intake increases inflammation markers throughout the body. For men with elevated PSA, excess sodium worsens inflammation. Robert was making 3 mistakes with 1 snack. High oxalate almonds creating crystal formation. Roasted until fats oxidized into inflammatory compounds. Heavily salted, adding more inflammatory stimulus. All 3 factors driving inflammation. All 3 contributing to PSA elevation. I suggested he stop almonds completely. Switch to low oxalate alternatives instead. Pumpkin seeds. 8 milligrams oxalate per ounce versus 122 for almonds. 15 times lower. Raw, unsalted. Similar satisfying crunch and protein content. Robert made the switch immediately. Same 2-ounce daily snack. Just pumpkin seeds instead of almonds. 3 months later, Robert emailed his new results. PSA 8.7, down 0.5 from 9.2. 6 months, PSA 8.2, down 1 full point. 9 months, PSA 7.8, back to where he started before almonds. 1.4 decrease total. I was creating inflammation with what I thought was healthy food, Robert wrote. The oxalates, oxidized fats, and salt were working against my health goals. Robert's case isn't unique. Through working with dozens of clients over 3 years, I've identified 7 common mistakes men make when eating nuts that can raise PSA. Mistakes that turn healthy fats into inflammatory problems. Today I'm revealing all 7 mistakes. Which nuts to avoid completely. Which nuts are safe in moderation. How roasting destroys beneficial compounds. Why salt matters more than you think. The preparation methods that create inflammation. The quantities that cross from helpful to harmful. And the exact nuts research links to lower PSA. If you're eating nuts daily and your PSA isn't improving, type nuts in the comments and I'll send you the complete safe nut guide with oxalate content, preparation methods, and daily limits. This is educational information based on my research working with men's health, not medical advice. Client names and some details have been changed to protect privacy while maintaining the accuracy of dietary patterns and outcomes observed. Individual responses to foods vary significantly. Work with your healthcare provider on all dietary decisions. Let me show you the 7 mistakes. Mistake number 1, eating high oxalate nuts. This is the mistake Robert made, and it's the most common one I see in my consulting work. Almonds and cashews are the 2 most popular nuts in America. They're also the 2 highest in oxalates. Almonds, 122 milligrams of oxalates per ounce. Cashews, 49 milligrams per ounce. Most men eat 2 ounces daily as a snack. 2 ounces of almonds, 244 milligrams of oxalates. 2 ounces of cashews, 98 milligrams. The recommended daily limit for people prone to kidney stones or inflammation is 50 to 100 milligrams total oxalates. a 2-ounce almond snack exceeds that by 2 to 5 times. Just from one food. Add oxalates from spinach, sweet potatoes, beets, chocolate, or other high-oxalate foods, and daily totals can reach 400 to 600 milligrams. Research shows that high oxalate intake leads to crystal formation in tissues. Calcium oxalate crystals, the same crystals that cause kidney stones. Emerging research suggests these crystals can accumulate in other tissues, including prostate tissue. The crystals act as irritants, cause localized inflammation. Chronic inflammation keeps PSA elevated. Another client ate cashews daily for 2 years. 2 ounces, about 32 cashews. His PSA rose from 7.9 to 8.8, 9/10 increase over 2 years. When he switched to macadamia nuts, only 9 milligrams of oxalates per ounce, his PSA dropped 8/10 in 6 months. The pattern repeats across multiple clients. High oxalate nuts correlate with rising or stagnant PSA. Low oxalate nuts correlate with stable or improving PSA. The solution: choose low oxalate nuts. Macadamia nuts, 9 milligrams per ounce. Pumpkin seeds, 8 milligrams per ounce. Sunflower seeds, 7 milligrams per ounce. Walnuts, 14 milligrams per ounce. Not as low as macadamias, but far better than almonds. These provide similar healthy fats, protein, and minerals, without the massive oxalate load. Mistake number 2, eating roasted instead of raw nuts. Most nuts sold in stores are roasted. Roasting improves flavor and texture, but it damages the nut's nutritional profile in ways that matter for inflammation. When nuts are roasted at high heat, typically 300 to 400 degrees, the polyunsaturated fats oxidize. Oxidized fats are inflammatory. They increase inflammatory markers in the blood. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry compared raw versus roasted almonds. Raw almonds, minimal lipid peroxidation. Roasted almonds at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Significant oxidation. The longer the roasting time and higher the temperature, the more oxidation occurs. Another study measured inflammatory responses in people after consuming raw versus roasted nuts. Raw nut consumption. No increase in inflammatory markers. Roasted nut consumption. Measurable increase in C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. Both markers associated with inflammation and elevated PSA. Beyond oxidation, roasting creates advanced glycation end products, AGEs. These compounds accumulate in the body and promote chronic inflammation. Research links high age intake to various inflammatory conditions. For men with prostate inflammation, adding AGEs through roasted nuts worsens the problem. A client roasted raw almonds at home, 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Fresher than buying pre-roasted, he thought. After 1 year, his PSA increased 6/10. When he switched to eating the almonds raw, his PSA dropped 8/10 in 6 months. Same almonds, different preparation, opposite result. The solution? Buy raw nuts. Store them in the refrigerator or freezer to prevent natural rancidity. If you want warm nuts, toast them gently at 250 degrees for 5 to 10 minutes maximum. This warms them without significant oxidation. Or soak raw nuts overnight, then dehydrate at low temperature. Soaking reduces phytic acid and improves digestibility while keeping fats intact. Mistake number 3, choosing salted varieties. Salt seems like a minor issue compared to oxalates or oxidation. But sodium affects inflammation more than most people realize. Research shows that high sodium intake increases inflammatory markers. Even moderate excess sodium from processed foods correlates with elevated C-reactive protein and other inflammatory markers. For men with prostate inflammation, this matters. Chronic inflammation from excess sodium keeps PSA elevated. Most roasted nuts are salted. Even lightly salted varieties contain significant sodium. A typical serving of salted almonds, 100 to 150 milligrams of sodium per ounce. 2 ounces, 200 to 300 milligrams. That's 10 to 15% of the daily recommended sodium limit of 2,000 milligrams from one snack. Over a year, that's 73 to 110 grams of added sodium just from nuts. A client ate lightly salted cashews daily. The label said 80 milligrams of sodium per ounce. That's not much, he thought. But 2 ounces daily for 18 months equals 29 grams of added sodium. His PSA remained elevated the entire time. 8.6, no change. When he switched to unsalted raw cashews, his PSA dropped 4/10 in 4 months. Still not ideal because cashews are high oxalate, but removing salt reduced one inflammatory factor. Here's an additional problem. Unsalted on labels can be misleading. FDA regulations allow products with less than 140 milligrams of sodium per serving to be labeled unsalted, but they can still contain added salt. Always check the ingredient list. If it says sea salt, salt, or sodium, there's added salt regardless of what the front label claims. The solution? Buy nuts with only one ingredient listed: almonds or cashews or walnuts. Nothing else. No salt, no oil, no flavorings. Pure nuts only. Mistake number 4. Eating too much. Quantity matters. Nuts are healthy in moderation, but too much creates problems. I've seen multiple clients eat 4 to 6 ounces of nuts daily. More is better, right? Wrong. Excessive nut consumption causes 3 problems. First, omega-6 overload. Most nuts are high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fats. In moderate amounts, omega-6 is fine, but the modern diet already has too much omega-6 and too little omega-3. The ideal ratio is 4:1 omega-6 to omega-3. Most Americans have 15:1 or 20:1. 4 ounces of almonds contains 24 grams of omega-6, almost no omega-3. This worsens the ratio further. Research shows that excessive omega-6 without balancing omega-3 increases inflammatory markers. Second, calorie excess. 4 ounces of almonds, 680 calories. Many men eat nuts as snacks without reducing other food intake. Weight gain follows. Excess body fat, especially abdominal fat, increases inflammation. Inflammation elevates PSA. Third, oxalate toxicity. 4 ounces of almonds, 488 milligrams of oxalates, 5 to 10 times the safe daily limit. Chronic high oxalate intake leads to crystal accumulation and inflammation. A client ate 6 ounces of mixed nuts daily, almonds, cashews, and walnuts. Nuts are healthy, so I eat a lot. After 1 year, his PSA, 9.4, up 1.2 from baseline. He'd also gained 12 pounds. When he cut to 1 ounce daily, half walnuts for omega-3, half pumpkin seeds for low oxalates, his PSA dropped 1.3 in 9 months. He also lost the weight. The solution? Limit nuts to 1 to 2 ounces daily maximum. 1 ounce is about 24 almonds, 18 cashews, or 14 walnut halves. Measure portions. Don't eat from the container. Balance with omega-3 sources like fatty fish, flax seeds, or chia seeds. Mistake number 5. Eating nuts with high phytate foods. Nuts naturally contain phytic acid, phytates. Phytates bind to minerals like zinc and iron in the digestive tract. This prevents absorption. You're eating minerals but not absorbing them. Zinc is particularly important for prostate health. Men with prostate issues often have lower zinc levels. Zinc supports prostate function and reduces inflammation, but phytates block zinc absorption. The problem gets worse when you combine nuts with other high phytate foods. Grains, legumes, and seeds also contain phytates. Eating nuts with oatmeal doubles the phytate load. Eating nuts with whole wheat bread triples it. A client ate cashews with his morning oatmeal daily. Both foods are high in phytates. The zinc in the cashews couldn't be absorbed because of combined phytate levels. After 10 months, his PSA, no change. When he separated his cashew snack from grain-based meals and started soaking his nuts overnight to reduce phytates, his PSA improved 4/10 in 3 months. Soaking nuts for 8 to 12 hours reduces phytate content by 50 to 70%. The phytates leach into the water. Drain and rinse before eating. The solution: soak nuts overnight before consuming. Eat nuts separately from high phytate grains and legumes, or pair nuts with vitamin C-rich foods like citrus or bell peppers. Vitamin C enhances mineral absorption even in the presence of some phytates. Mistake number 6. Storing nuts improperly. Rancidity. Nuts contain polyunsaturated fats that oxidize over time, especially when exposed to heat, light, or air. Oxidized rancid fats are inflammatory. They damage cells and promote chronic inflammation. Many men buy large containers of nuts from warehouse stores. Keep them in the pantry. Open container, exposed to air and room temperature. Over weeks or months, the fats oxidize. The nuts develop an off smell or bitter taste. That's rancidity. Eating rancid nuts adds inflammatory oxidized fats to your diet daily. A client bought a 3-pound container of almonds from Costco, kept it in his pantry, took 3 months to finish. By month 3, the almonds tasted slightly bitter. He ate them anyway. They're still good, but those last almonds were significantly oxidized. His PSA stayed elevated the entire period. When he switched to buying smaller amounts, storing in the refrigerator in an airtight container, and finishing within 2 weeks, his nuts stayed fresh. His PSA improved. The solution: buy nuts in small quantities. Store in airtight containers in the refrigerator or freezer. This prevents oxidation. Smell nuts before eating. Fresh nuts smell mild and slightly sweet. Rancid nuts smell sharp, bitter, or paint-like. If they smell off, discard them. Don't eat oxidized rancid fats. Mistake number 7. Choosing nuts high in omega-6. The 7th mistake is choosing nuts based on popularity rather than omega-6 content. Some nuts are far higher in inflammatory omega-6 than others. Walnuts are unique. They contain significant omega-3 ALA. Most other nuts are omega-6 dominant. Pine nuts, omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of 300 to 1. Brazil nuts, 1,000 to 1. Pecans, 20 to 1. Almonds, 2,000 to 1, almost pure omega-6. For men trying to reduce inflammation, choosing omega-6 dominant nuts worsens the problem. The solution: prioritize walnuts when eating tree nuts. They provide omega-3 to help balance the ratio. Or choose seeds over nuts. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds. Better mineral profiles, lower oxalates, more balanced omega ratios. A client who replaced almonds with half walnuts, half pumpkin seeds, saw his PSA drop 0.7 in 5 months. Before I share the complete protocol, it's important to emphasize that nuts, when chosen and prepared correctly, are nutritious foods with well-documented health benefits. Large-scale research on cardiovascular health, diabetes prevention, and overall mortality consistently shows that regular nut consumption benefits most people. Studies demonstrate that nut intake reduces risk of heart disease, improves cholesterol profiles, and supports healthy aging. These 7 mistakes don't mean nuts are unhealthy overall. They mean that for men specifically managing prostate inflammation, nut type, preparation method, and quantity need careful attention to maximize benefits while minimizing inflammatory factors. The goal isn't eliminating nuts from your diet. The goal is choosing and preparing them in ways that support your specific health objectives. Now you know the 7 mistakes and the broader context. Here's what to do instead. Choose low oxalate nuts and seeds: pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, macadamia nuts, walnuts. Avoid almonds and cashews if managing inflammation. Preparation: buy raw, unsalted. Soak overnight if possible to reduce phytates. Store in refrigerator in airtight containers. Quantity: 1 to 2 ounces daily maximum. Measure portions. Don't eat from bag. Timing: eat separately from high phytate grains. Pair with vitamin C-rich foods to enhance mineral absorption. Balance: include omega-3 sources: walnuts, fatty fish, flax seeds, chia seeds. Storage: small quantities, refrigerated, used within 2 weeks. Discard any nuts that smell or taste rancid. Robert ate roasted salted almonds daily for 18 months. His PSA went from 8.1 to 9.2, 1.1 increase, because he made 3 mistakes simultaneously: high oxalate nuts creating crystal inflammation, roasted fats oxidized into inflammatory compounds, added salt worsening inflammation. When he switched to raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds, his PSA dropped 1.4 in 9 months. The 7 mistakes: eating high oxalate nuts like almonds and cashews, choosing roasted instead of raw, buying salted varieties, eating too much, more than 2 ounces daily, combining nuts with high phytate foods, storing improperly, leading to rancidity, choosing omega-6 dominant nuts. Avoid these 7, and nuts can support prostate health. Make these mistakes, and nuts become inflammatory problems. Comment nuts below, and I'll send you the complete guide. Oxalate content charts, preparation methods, storage tips, and daily limits for each nut type. Subscribe because next video, I'm revealing the 5 foods that work synergistically with nuts to lower PSA even faster.